And I remember I attended one of your talks at kind of a national community event, and there was about 60, 70 people in the audience. And I remember the first thing you mentioned, you introduced yourself and you said, okay, who here has got mental health? If you could like put your hands up. And I was in the audience, I swear, I was like, what? Because I assumed, like I said, I didn't know, isn't it, the difference? So I assumed that if I put my hand up, maybe I'm implying that I've something wrong with me. So I just folded my arms, I look right, left to see like what's everyone else doing. And no one put their hand up. And then it's just because we didn't know, isn't it, this knowledge, this common knowledge of what's the difference between mental health and mental illness.
Mental health, everyone has. Everyone, and would hope, that we have good mental health because we're able to live normal day-to-day lives. If like something happened, if something inconvenient happened to us, we'd be able to take that on the chin. It's not a big deal. Whereas people that have a disrupted mental health, or people that have a mental illness, they wouldn't be able to deal with that as well as a person who's functioning well would.
I want to show you this video. So like the reason why we're talking about this today is Tyson Fury, who is debatably the best heavyweight boxer in the world. If you're a Fury fan, if not, it's AJ.
I'm not really a massive Fury
you
fan.
AJ or a Fury fan?
AJ. But I do, but I appreciate what Tyson Fury has done. His style of boxing I find boring.
Don't give us the political answer, bro. It's either you're an AJ fan or you're a Fury fan. I find the style of boxing
boring, but I'm not like a that technically savvy within boxing. But I know people that are technically savvy in boxing. They think he's a genius.
On YouTube, this video came out about last week. And he just mentions this, he makes this one comment, and it's interesting, and it's related to what we're talking about today. So you've not seen this, have you?
No, I haven't.
So I made sure that you didn't see this, so you can actually watch it together. So here.
I was tempted to, but I stopped myself for you.
So normal, humble.
Not really interested in all that lifestyle because, I'm a historian on boxing, and I've seen 99% of boxers go from heroes back down to nothing and start again and all that, and then end up where they started. All the material stuff, right? I thought that was going to bring me joy and happiness. So if I've had two careers and two lives, basically. The first Tyson Fury, who beat Klitschko, that he wanted all the things, everything that all a champion would have, like all the fast cars, all the money, fame, going out with all the boys, balling, all that sort of stuff, And it gets very boring, it doesn't make me happy. It made me very sad and gave me a lot of depression, and I wanted to die. Imagine me, I'm 27 years old, I've got more money than I can spend in 100 lifetimes. I've got everything that any man could ever wish for. Family, fame, glory, achievements, money. Whatever I can ever want, I've got. And more. And I just want to die every day. I don't want to live anymore.
Crazy, man.
So material things will never, ever, ever fill that gap. So now, I'm happy for being sane every day. I'm happy for training every day. I'm happy to take my kids to school and back. I want to do me bin trips and all that to the tip. Go to the barbers, that sort of stuff. Just normal everyday.
Even that makes me laugh. Like, you said, go to the barbers, but he's bold. Like, and you see Tyson Fury, he's like, obviously he pulls it off good though. He looks nice on him, but he's bold and he says, go to the barbers.
Normal stuff. That keeps me level-headed. It keeps me grounded, and I'm not interested in living a superstar's lifestyle. So
to be fair, so it's like a 13-minute video. Obviously, what he said was just about a minute and a bit. But it's important though. Like, I know we were like laughing at a couple of things, but it's important, and what he said is so true though. That money or materialistic things, they don't buy you happiness.
No, they don't.
And I think with him, like, he's probably got, to be fair, one of the best comeback stories in sports history. Like, I've even seen videos of him mentioning how he's been in his car driving at like ridiculous speed, and he just wanted to kind of take it off the bridge or smash it straight into the wall, and then obviously he's last minute changed his mind. And actually, what's interesting about him as well, actually, when he beat Klitschko, obviously it was a huge upset. No one really believed in him much. He beat Klitschko, and then it was kind of set up him to fight Wilder. And then I remember there was a really kind of clip that went viral where he went to Wilder's fight, and after the fight it was kind of staged where he'll go into the ring and they'll kind of confront each other and he'll sell the fight. And that 1.5 minute clip, like, if you just watch him, you can't tell like that he's upset or he's going through all of these things. But someone made like a behind the scenes kind of footage, and in that footage you see that this guy is just having drink after drink, and I think that's what for him, that's drink is the answer at the time. He's just having drink after drink, and he's so upset, you can tell something's wrong. But still, like, he's done his job. He's just gone into the ring, confronted Wilder, and next thing you know, they sold the fight. So
there's multiple factors to this. One thing that I've just realised is that it's very common with people with mental health problems, and obviously at that time when he went into the ring, he was suffering from mental health problems. And people mask it very well. And if you think about famous people or people that are in the limelight a lot, so celebrities, they have to mask their emotions a lot more because they're in the public eye. So if they're feeling a certain way, they know it's going to be on the front page of every tabloid, and then everyone's going to be picking up on it, talking about it. They're going to become a meme or something. So he has to mask his emotions. He has to mask his feelings, and that is one of the worst things you can do for your mental health. You know, we have emotions for a reason. We have body language for a reason, and people and how our body language speaks to people subconsciously tells a lot about how we're feeling and how emotionally we're doing. But when you hide that, when you suppress all of that, it comes out in some ways. And with him, it came out in depression, and then what that made him do is drink, you know, just try and drown his sorrows in alcohol, drugs as well. He mentioned before. And that is, again, is very common. And people with, you know, they have this fame, they have this wealth, and when they feel they have no purpose or objective in life.
But there's studies done as well that show the richer that you get, the more kind of mentally disturbed you are, the more you suffer from these issues. And even in some cases, it's not even rich, it's like in authority. Because obviously with wealth comes in some job cases like authority. So it's I mean, and that's common. That's not just one or two people facing this. That's common amongst CEOs and people of that level.
So I'm only just realizing now that when in mental health settings, you normally come in on a section 2, and you're there for around 4 months, and that's when they're analysing you, assessing you.
What's section 2, sorry?
Section 2 is an order where the psychologist or a psychiatrist can keep you within hospital up to 4 months against your will. Where that's when they're assessing you, see how you are. If they need to keep you on longer than 4 months, then you go into a section 3. That's where they can keep you against your will for up to 6 months, and then that one gets extended until you're well, basically. And I'd say, I mean, this estimation might be disputed, or people might think that this is mad, but in my experience, I would say about 75% of the patients that come in on section 2 end up being extended to section 3. It's very rare for patients to come in and be released within the 4 weeks, back out into the community, and they're doing well. One patient that we had was a Muslim boy. And I remember the first time I met him, so you go into work, you have your morning meeting, handover, where the previous shift explained basically what happened in the shift, if there's any new patients that come in, any incidents that have occurred, who needs to be looked after more than other patients, etc., etc. And so they told us, there's one boy come in, told us his name, etc., what his condition was. He had bipolar, and he was showing symptoms of psychosis as well. So having hallucinations, seeing things or hearing things, and someone speaking to him. So they told me to go and have a word with him, go speak to him. I went to his door, and he...
How old was he? Sorry?
He was 14, 15. Right. He was doing his GCSEs at the time.
Quite young, man, really young.
And bro, I remember the first thing I can hear Qira'at from somewhere. I can hear the recitation of the Quran. I go to his room. He's standing. The windows are meshed. Security reason. The windows are meshed. He's looking out the window and he's reciting the Quran in the most beautiful Qira'at. I'm standing there for like a good few minutes, just listening to him in awe. And I realized, I've got to help him. I've got to get him to come out and have his medication. So there whilst I worked with him for about 2.5, 3 weeks, there were many instances that made me realize he's very, very ill. One example is when that same day that he came, his family came over as well to meet him, and he had a massive family. I think there's about 10 of them altogether, including his Arabic teacher. Not family, but he came along with them. And he sat down in the room. So no, his family already in the room. I walked in with the patient, and he ignored his family and went straight to his Arabic teacher and started reciting the Quran.
Wow.
Just went straight up to him, right to the front of the room, and just started reciting the Quran, standing in front of him. No salam, dua, nothing, right? And then the Arabic teacher's allowing him to recite, and then when he has a break or pause, he stops and he says, look, in Islam, you have to give greetings or say Assalamu alaikum to whenever you meet people. So say Assalamu alaikum to your family. So he turns around and he says, no, they're not my family, they're imposters. And his family just broke down crying, like his sisters, his brothers, his mum, dad. Wow. And then that's when you could tell, wow, this person's severely ill. Anyway, over the next few weeks, he was through medication, through therapies as well. counselling, all sorts, he got better and he got back into the community, and you could see the changes that he made within himself. And realizing, and only now after that incident happened, maybe 5 years ago, I'm realizing that, you know, faith must have helped him in some way, because he read all he read all his namazes. And then after about a week, he did want to get in touch with his family. He did want to go to see his friends. And because he was not a high risk, we allow patients out for certain day trips or overnight trips.
Yeah.
And on one occasion, I went with him to his school, and he was very high achieving in school.
Wow.
And you know, one of the reasons why he had his psychological issues was apparently the stress that he was getting about how well he needed to
pressure of
pressure, etc. Yeah. But basically, this story to me is only coming to me now is that, one, you know, he was a social being. You could tell when I visited his school with him, I could see that he was actually quite a sociable person. He was making people laugh. Yeah. He enjoyed being around his friends. Yeah. But also the fact that he used to read namaz every day. He would not miss namaz. I mean, there were certain aspects of his religious nature you can say that his psychosis was meddling in. Like, there were certain things he would say or do that you'd think, okay, cool, you are definitely not well.
Yeah.
But other than that, you could tell he had a spiritual backing, and he believed in God, and he did want to get well. We've spoken about it at length, and you know, that, I believe, pushed him to get better.
You know what's amazing about that story? Because on Review of Religions online, and I think we'll put the link to what I'm talking about to this article in the description. But Amr Safir, who's the chief editor of and the manager of Review of Religions, he interviewed His Holiness, the 5th Caliph of our community, regarding mental health. And I think His Holiness mentioned in one of his sermons about mental health. But in summary, His Holiness mentioned, and it's to do with exactly what you said, that happiness is linked to kind of socializing, gatherings, meeting people. And grief is linked to kind of isolation. And then isolation leads to kind of depression. But His Holiness mentioning this further stated that Islam is a religion that's based on human nature, and Islam provides you so many opportunities to kind of go out, meet people, go to different gatherings, and these are through our practices, through our festivals, whatever they may be. But it's such an amazing article, and I'll definitely say to whoever's watching to definitely click on the link, and it will take you to the article, and you'll see the whole kind of overview of what His Holiness is saying. But there's one verse which His Holiness mentions, and I feel it's such a beautiful verse, and it's a verse that we see in our mosques. Normally it's in the dome area, and the translation of that verse is, "It is in the remembrance of God that your heart finds content." And this verse is such a beautiful verse. But also I feel that sometimes Islam is a bit like misrepresented when it comes to, like, because often people say that, or religious people just say, like, if you're mentally not well, or you're a bit upset, or just pray, it'll be okay. And ultimately that's taken out of context, because like I said, Islam, it's a lifestyle, isn't it? And I'm saying, if you follow these teachings that are mentioned in the Holy Quran, if you study it properly, it tells you to integrate, to go out, to do charity. To do charity. And doing charity work made me realize as well is that the time that we're going through now, so for example, COVID, people are upset, people are losing jobs, money issues, whatever it is, loneliness. Charity work, I thought, because there's a saying, a tradition of the Holy Prophet, may peace be upon him, he says, the hand that gives is better than the hand that receives. And I was thinking, like, okay, and one of the pillars of Islam is charity. So I was thinking, this is such a beautiful teaching. And actually, when you do charity, so for example, I've been traveling. You've been on one of these trips as well, right? Where you've been abroad and you had opportunity to. Where did you go?
I volunteered in El Salvador.
Exactly,
for 3 months.
And I realized, like, even I went to, like, so I've been to Nigeria, I've been to Liberia as well. Liberia was a real eye opener for me. But you realize when you're in a position where you're helping someone who's less fortunate than you, it really opens your eyes. And makes you. It made me feel that no matter how bad it is, there are people who are less fortunate than me, and that mentally just made me feel that I'm helping them, and I have faith that through me helping, God will also help me. So these things, and this is just one aspect of, like, Islam's teachings, where it's give charity. But there's also, like, for example, there's so much work where we do service to humanity. We do tree planting, blood donation. We gather, like Eid which is one of our festivals, we celebrate it twice a year. That's a gathering, it's happiness. Every Friday we say is a form of Eid as well, where we gather for our Friday prayers. Muslims are encouraged, or rather instructed, to congregate for prayers on a daily basis. So these are opportunities where you meet people who are there for the same purpose. You stand shoulder to shoulder with people when you're there, with that same spirit. And it's such a, even now I feel it. Like, so, and I was saying this the other day as well, actually, that so I as a imam live in Stevenage. We don't have a mosque or anything, but we normally hire community centres and community halls for our morning prayer and evening prayers on a regular basis, daily basis. And since COVID, I've not been at a community event where I've led a prayer in congregation. In fact, the only prayer that I've led in a congregation since COVID has started has been funeral prayers.
Really?
And that hit me the other day, and it made me like sad to an extent that, you know, prayer is such a, like, I've really felt that social kind of distance where we're not like going to our mosque, seeing our brothers, doing little things that we're so used to.
I wanted to touch upon a few things you said. Like, one of the things that I was going to mention, you took the words right out of my mouth, is, you know, where that verse where Allah says, surely in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find, is content.
It is in the remembrance of God that your heart finds content.
So, you know, where we're instructed, you know, to read namaz 5 times a day in congregation. Now, that is one beautiful and perfect example of how Islam is tied in with our human nature. You know, naturally we are cohabitants. We want to meet people, and we are made to communicate with people. That's why we have language. That's why we have body language. That's why we have facial expressions. Because we're communicating on a constant basis. Now, if we're instructed to read namaz 5 times a day, and we know already that depression, mental health, a big part of this is being isolated, being distant from other people. If we're instructed to go to the mosque 5 times a day, where you are undoubtedly going to meet people, you're going to greet with them, you're going to smile with them, you're going to catch up on things, how is there a chance for you to be unwell, or for you to be mentally unwell? If you have 5 times a day going to meet people, some people you might not see in a while, and you might feel better from you know, greeting them, you might even see your friends 5 times a day, there's no chance for you to be unwell. That is one beautiful example, that you literally and you're remembering God. What are you doing what are you going to mosque for 5 times a day? To remember God. So surely in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find content. Exactly that. And the other thing that you mentioned about charity, more and more recently, studies have come out to show that acts of altruism, I don't know if you know what altruism is. Altruism is behavior that you don't personally get any gain for. You're doing this behavior only for the benefit of other people.
Others, Right.
So in Christmas Carol, you know, Scrooge, he became altruistic towards the end. He was giving. And charity is an act of giving. It's being altruistic. And more recently, studies are showing that altruistic behavior is significantly beneficial for people's mental health. So this is a perfect example of how Islam positively promotes a mental well-being. You know, altruism is something that's only recently being discovered as a promoter of mental well-being, whereas Islam has been saying it for over 1400 years. So to be altruistic, to be charitable, improves our mental well-being.
You know, the last thing I want to mention is that obviously we've said that Islam is in line with human nature. So it gives you so many opportunities to kind of integrate, socialize, congregate. But also, I mean, these are all things which are fulfilling rights of mankind, but also the basics of fulfilling the rights of God, as we can't just ignore that as well. We have to kind of improve our spiritual status as well, and our prayers. And His Holiness has mentioned this on so many occasions, that every day we should self-evaluate. At the end of every day, you should self-evaluate, see how productive your day's been. And this, people do this on a worldly point of view all the time, like how their business is done, how they can improve. But from a spiritual point of view, you should self-evaluate at the end of every day, see where you can improve, see how you can improve your standard of prayers. And even, for example, to really connect with God, getting that emotion in prayer is so important. Almost as if, like, yes, every man, women, everyone has emotions. Every human being expresses emotions. But I want to express them to God. Like, almost I want to cry in front of God, saying, God, please help me. These are my sorrows. These are my difficulties. Only you have the strength to help me, the power to help me. And that's why, I mean, it's not easy. You can't just cry. Like, I mean, if you're new to prayer, you can't just on day one start crying. But you have to kind of develop And the Promised Messiah,
Yeah,
may
exactly.
peace be on him, has also mentioned this, that you got to develop. If you can't cry, if you find it difficult to cry, almost you have to pretend that you're crying. And he's mentioned this in his book, Philosophy of the Teaching of Islam, which is an amazing book.
Yeah, and it's also a beautiful point, again, which links mental well-being, Islam, and also modern day science. So if you can't cry, fake cry, and you'll end up eventually crying for real. And I don't know if anyone's tried that before, but it works amazingly. And it's the same thing with and it's something that actually therapists and scientists picked up on now, and they've used it in something called laughing therapy. And I
remember you doing this actually. I remember you doing this.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was about to ask you actually, because I remember you being in the audience, and you were like, okay, now can everyone just pretend to laugh? And we were in the audience thinking, what's he saying? But I remember it worked.
Exactly,
we all pretend laugh, and we were all happy afterwards.
So laughing therapy is based on the same notion that the Prophet Messiah picked up upon over 100 years ago, where if you fake an emotion, that emotion will become real. So laughing therapy is another form of therapy used for positive mental well-being, where literally you walk into a room and the therapist at the front will just start laughing randomly, and she might look crazy, but then everyone will look at that and start laughing. So it's contagious, and then laughing releases those endorphins and those neurotransmitters that make us feel good. So yeah, again, another example of how beautifully linked Islam, science, mental well-being, all of that, and how it creates a lifestyle, a positive lifestyle for us to live healthy, happy lives.